Hello and welcome back to the first YouTube video not filmed in front of a live studio audience. We are breaking all kinds of new grounds and technological innovations on this channel, where all the writing is done by a sleep-deprived university student trained on years of irrelevant literature and Netflix sitcoms. But what if the writing was done not by a human and instead was done by an artificial intelligence? It would be unprecedented in this modern digital age, and frankly kind of unethical. I'm not sure why you'd even think of something like that. It seems kind of unnecessary. This inorganically leads into the topic of the video, a non sequitur to the last video, and that is artificial intelligence, and even more specifically, the advertising methods used to market artificial intelligence. I understand the necessity to market a product. If you want people to buy it, it's kind of necessary for them to know about it. But I guess marketing is especially important if the product doesn't really change, but you want people to think that it has, right? The illusion of novelty, of grandeur, perhaps. And one company that I think that has previously had this kind of notoriety for technological innovation, but has recently slowed down, is Apple, right? All their old phones used to be like, the camera's like 5 times better, it can game this much more efficiently, you know, the performance is off the charts, and now it's just kind of like, well, the phone's better than the one from last year, but like, the one from last year still works fine, so like, you're not really upgrading for anything. And this is where Apple Intelligence comes in, where you aren't advertising the product anymore, but rather the features of the product, which is hard to demonstrate. I feel like the modern critique of the brand new iPhone being nearly identical to the previous years is not entirely inherently flawed. Of course, it would be modestly incorrect. Sometimes they change the bezels, but with modern computing not improving as fast as it used to, it's harder to market performance as this kind of grand improvement. So now the convincing has to happen kind of more in software changes. You know, only this device can access this software for computational reasons, of course. And, you know, just the convenience of having the AI that you could use from an app on the App Store, except just having it integrated into the phone. Not something that has me personally convinced to buy a new $1,600 phone, but perhaps for someone else it might be, you know, the nudge to push them off the technological cliff, right? I guess my real question is kind of like, how is this even anything? It's a different angle now. So Apple, in its latest marketing campaign, decided to go all cylinders in on the Apple Intelligence bandwagon, and as far as I can tell, it's like a marginally more useful Siri that just asks ChatGPT stuff instead of just, I don't know, letting you do it yourself, maybe. It kind of seems like it's a pointless workaround for what wasn't really entirely an issue in the first place. Actually, maybe the issue was the fact that Siri was just so awful that Apple decided that they needed an alternative to it. And so, like, Apple Intelligence is essentially just them marketing a solution to their inefficiencies and software inadequacies that have been kind of a problem for, like, the past decade. I mean, Siri was cool when she came out, but basically useless unless you're using it for anything other than setting a reminder or an alarm. In which case, it did save you time, but it's not really this game-changing kind of financial motivator that would cause someone to buy one product over the other. Apple Intelligence, I had a very short window on which to use it before the device that I was using it on proceeded to blow itself up. And I found it to honestly be more frustrating than really useful for anything. It would just suggest, like, these 2-word responses to, like, a paragraph of information as a text, and it wouldn't be even moderately personalized, so it essentially just allowed you to respond with the lowest effort, like, that sounds great, to, like, a long paragraph that you received. Or it'd, like, summarize it in, like, a way that's almost insulting to what the person actually wrote to you in the first place. I don't know. Apparently you need the newest iPhone for this technology, which doesn't make sense. Although I have heard to some extent that it's because it does some onboard artificial intelligence processing. I don't know if that's true or not. They could just be making that up. It just probably means that it's faster if it has better Wi-Fi on it or something. I don't know. My biggest issue with this kind of advertising isn't how the product just isn't a significant gap in improvements between the previous product, because, you know, as technology improves, of course, like, the gaps between the improvements are going to be a little bit more difficult to come by, even though what we have by any amount of standards by technological purposes in human history is like some kind of a miracle. Like, I still don't really understand how cars just work and how they're even moderately reliable. Like, it's just a miracle of millions of hours of engineering that they can just work, and that we get insanely frustrated when they don't. So, like, modern technology, by all intents and purposes, is its own kind of miracle. You know, the argument for the technology isn't really one that I'm qualified to make, because I don't understand how it works. But the flagrant idiocy used in the marketing campaigns is one that you can just look at and analyze without any kind of degree or qualifications. And that is something I am qualified for. But the advertising campaigns in and of themselves seem to market incompetence, which is honestly quite confusing, because you wouldn't want to own a product that makes you seem like a worse person. So I'm not really sure where the audience is for this. Maybe it's appealing to, like, the laziest modality of people's brains, where the phone is purely for entertainment while it's being marketed for productivity. So it will entertain you as much as possible, and then substitute the productivity in some way, shape, or form, which is just kind of unusual, but it's fine. Is artificial intelligence supposed to be the only intelligence that these people have? Is the iPhone the first and only product to replace the human brain? In the first ad, this guy does nothing every single workday, and then he sends just like one email, and his boss is just on his side, just proud of him, you know. That's his boy now. He did one productive thing. Maybe the bar was just so low for this guy in the first place that even exceeding the minimum expectations was some kind of blowout victory, but, you know, you gotta take what you can get sometimes, I guess. But would you imagine yourself as this person in this ad? Is that someone you would want to be? Personally, I wouldn't, but, you know, to each their own. Like, why would I want to buy a product that makes me want to be like him? We all inherently just kind of hate the coworker that acts like this guy, because we all wish we could be that lazy. But also, we all know that we can't be that lazy, because nothing would work. And this other ad has a wife that is completely bitter that her children remembered her husband's birthday. Well, in the meantime, she forgot that it was happening. So instead of being happy and prideful of her children, and maybe capturing the moment with this brand new updated iPhone camera, you know, highest quality on the market, you know, you could market that, you know, that would work. That's technology. We don't understand that. But what they did advertise instead is the new phone? No. A watch? The new Apple Watch? No. They advertised an AI-generated slideshow, which is what she came up with. She had all this time, and she came up with a slideshow. This ad is set in the morning. She could have waited till the evening to come up with something for this guy's birthday, but instead she just typed into Siri and came up with this random slideshow, which it feels more insulting than just not remembering someone's birthday. Like, if someone sent me an image and was like, I took this photo of my bathroom wall for you, happy birthday, that would feel less insulting than just sending me this slideshow that I know that you didn't even come up with. You didn't even remember. It's just so inherently obvious that it was the last thing on your mind, that you had to pull something so ridiculous out of the recesses of your mind to try to feign a meaningful connection. It's a gift that just feels like stealing. Technically, according to math or something, it's contributing to the heat death of the universe just by making it. And, you know, That's a very subtle loss. Like, honestly, even a picture collage has more thought and intentionality behind it than an AI crafting a digital playlist. I suppose these different advertisements together kind of display the modern corporate landscape and how they view their consumers, right? It's kind of very insulting and degrading, right? They assume that we will give them money for basically as little as possible as they are willing to offer, which it's been working, so I'm not sure if they're entirely wrong. I've also found that this isn't just exclusively an Apple issue, although it'd be convenient if it was just one aspect of the market, because this video would be shorter. But, you know, the ads for Google Gemini through the Google Pixel are doing adjacently the same thing. And I know that not everyone is technologically versed, you know. Everyone has different amounts of familiarity, especially when it comes to new technology, like AI, and you could even make the argument for smartphones to some extent, because if you grew up your entire life and it got introduced during the sunset phase of your glory years, then, you know, the UI is not going to be as intuitive, and a lot of the things that we have as muscle memories as a younger generation will just kind of be lost, because it's so much harder to develop those things later into your life. So it makes sense that, you know, some people are technologically illiterate. You know, it's just what happens, right? It's like if you never saw a car, you wouldn't know how to drive it. You know, it's just implied knowledge because we've been around it our entire lives, right? Being technologically illiterate, that's fine, until it becomes my problem and I see ads that show me it. But, like, why in these advertisements do they have people acting like dumbfounded or confused while they're talking to a virtual assistant? This isn't really like new technology. People have had Google Homes, Alexas in like every corner of their house for like the past decade. But even on top of that, people have been having conversations since the beginning of human civilization.
Hello?
Hi, I'm Gemini.
So what do I do? Just talk?
You can ask me about anything.
Anything at all.
Hello? Hi, I'm Gemini.
Hi, Gemini?
How can I help you?
So I just talk?
Yes, but normal. Just talk normal.
So it shouldn't be a surprise that something responds in a human-like manner. You know, I don't think conversations are inherently a foreign concept to most people around. So it is kind of strange that they act like something responding on a phone is some kind of like mind-blowing or even confounding issue. It's just not. That's just how life works now. They also try to showcase it as like a conversational substitute for a human teacher or instructor, or various differing needs. And it's cool that this technology exists, but it's kind of strange how they view this technology as replacing functional human connections, in like they just shove that to the wayside and chuck in the robot that cannot actually be invested in your development or even fostering social connections. Like, they're substituting that into your life, which doesn't really make any sense because the AI doesn't exist in real life. And even if it exists in some kind of philosophical manner, it's limited to a device that you can have around, which I guess all the time now. But even then, it can only remember so much about you, and it loses context as soon as you start a new conversation. So, like, it's a functionally faux pas relationship. It's one directional, right? It acts like it knows you because it's been trained to act like a human, but it does not. It doesn't exist. So it's really strange that, you know, they're building this up into like this weird parasocial relationship where they can essentially bill you to talk to a fake existence. I don't know. It's really kind of strange and a little bit brain itching, but I don't know. I'm just waiting for the moment I get to sit in the audience for a brain surgery and someone asks Gemini verbatim, what do I do if I accidentally sever the frontal lobe of the brainstem? In which case then, and only then, will we truly understand what it's like to live in the perfect society. You know, it's evidence that we outdid the Romans. Other than advertisements that treat us like the mindless consumers that we are, for those zoned out or not following along, just start nodding your heads at the previous sentences. There's another issue present that AI has apparently solved, but actually created new issues for. What might this be? You may be wondering. And the answer is, I'll have to get back to you on that. In the meantime, feel free to hit up the Don's YouTube channel support team, staffed with AI to help you find solutions to all your needs. Oh, you want to talk to a human? Talk to the robot first, and let it decide for you if you really need human assistance. Oh, that's right, AI is not very assistant or very helpful. When it comes to answering questions, sure, it's got you. It's amazing at that. But for solving internal problems for systems that the AI really has no power in, it is functionally useless. It can't really change anything. It can just help decide whether you actually need help or not. Like, the amount of times I've loaded up a website and just had to type in agent like 5 times to actually talk to a support team because the AI is just hesitant and it doesn't really believe that I actually need help with an issue. You know, if I had a nickel for every time that happened, I'd probably have like 25 cents. And that is a lot of money if I had a time machine. But it's strange that it happens so frequently. Companies must implement this to deter people from persisting and actually reaching out to their support team. You know, the more barriers, the less likely someone's to actually persist and get help, you know, for using their product, which in my head kind of seems a little bit, you know, backwards, but I suppose they have their reasons. Maybe technology is sometimes beneficial for an experience, but in this case, it feels like it's 10 steps backwards. My biggest gripe with all of this is the replacement of the interactive voice response system. Instead of pressing 4, then 5, then 8, you know, some kind of a muscle memory when you call up your bank because for some reason your card got declined, you're just like, okay, I know I can skip this and then hit this and then hit this. But for some reason, they decided to implement this voice system that asks you what you want. I think it would be fine if it actually understood me every single time, but I don't want to talk to the robot. The robot is creepy. His voice weirds me out. I just want him to read off a list of things that I can press on my phone and then just skip that process entirely. When it doesn't list things out, it kind of leaves it marginally up to interpretation. Like, I don't know sometimes what my problem falls under relative to, like, the available options for customer service. And so when I'm forced to guess where it is, I don't know where the AI is going to send me. And oftentimes that'll just back up the support queues even further because they have to redirect me to get me to the department that I actually need help for. And so it just doesn't make much sense, but I'm sure they have their reasons. They're billion-dollar companies. I'm sure it cuts costs somewhere. Anyways, thanks for watching this video. If you agree or empathize, like and subscribe or something. Sorry for delays. I decided that uploading weekly was more than I could do, so I just didn't. See you in the next video, for real.